The 1st of September, 1939. After a false accusation that the Poles attacked a German radio station, Nazi Germany launches a retaliatory campaign against Poland, triggering World War II. Poland finds itself fighting a two-front war when it's invaded by the Soviet Union from the east on the 17th of September. Warsaw officially surrenders to the Germans on the 28th of September, and one day later, in accordance with a secret protocol to their non-aggression pact, Germany and the Soviet Union partition Poland. In the fall of 1940, German authorities establish a ghetto in Warsaw, Poland's largest city with the largest Jewish population. Almost 30% of Warsaw's population are packed into 2.4% of the city's area. German policy towards the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto is particularly brutal and ruthless. Extreme overcrowding, minimal rations, and unsanitary conditions lead to disease, starvation, and the death of thousands of Jews each month. One of the main perpetrators of these atrocities is Heinrich Klaustermeyer. Karl Heinrich Klaustermeyer, a son of a self-employed master painter, was born on the 22nd of February 1914 in Bielefeld, then part of the German Empire. On the 24th of October 1929, the stock market crash marked the beginning of the Great Depression in the United States, which soon spread across the globe. Due to deteriorating economic conditions in Germany, Heinrich Klaustermeyer, a trained car mechanic, became unemployed. The Great Depression also played a role in the emergence of Adolf Hitler, the leader of the Nazi Party, which Klaustermeyer joined in 1932. The same year, he also joined the SA. While the Great Depression and German economic conditions were not solely responsible for bringing Hitler to power, they helped to create an environment in which he gained support, and on the 30th of January 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany by the German President, Paul von Hindenburg. Immediately after Hitler came into power, Germany became a dictatorship, and the Nazi regime quickly began to restrict the civil and human rights of the Jews, and established the first concentration camps, imprisoning its political opponents, homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, and others classified as dangerous. Unlike prisons, with which they were often inaccurately compared today, concentration camps were independent of any judicial review. The first such camp, Dachau, was established in March 1933, less than 2 months after Hitler became the Chancellor. Between 1933 and 1945, Nazi Germany and its European allies would establish more than 44,000 camps and other incarceration sites, including ghettos. The perpetrators used these locations for forced labor, detention of people deemed to be enemies of the state, and the mass murder of millions. In the new Nazi Germany, Heinrich Klaustermeyer got a job as a messenger with the city of Bender. In 1935, he joined the Wehrmacht, the German armed forces, but was discharged on health grounds 2 years later. He was then rehired as a caretaker in Bender. On the 9th and 10th of November 1938, the Nazi leaders unleashed a series of coordinated violent riots against Jews throughout Nazi Germany and recently incorporated territories. The Nazi SA and German civilians not only ransacked 7,500 Jewish-owned businesses, homes and schools, but also destroyed hundreds of synagogues. 91 Jews were murdered, and the German SS and police sent almost 30,000 Jewish males to concentration camps, primarily Dachau. This event came to be called Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass, because of the shattered glass that littered the streets afterwards, but the euphemism does not convey the full brutality of the event. Immediately after the Kristallnacht, Nazi officials claimed that the Jews themselves were to blame for the riots, and a fine of 1 billion Reichsmarks, about $400 million at 1938 rates, was imposed on the German Jewish community. Kristallnacht was a turning point in the history of the Third Reich, marking the shift from anti-Semitic rhetoric and legislation to the violent, aggressive, anti-Jewish measures that would culminate with the Holocaust. Heinrich Klaustermeyer, a well-known Jew hater, played a leading role in the anti-Semitic riots in Bender. In August 1939, he was hired by the Gestapo in Bielefeld with the rank of Oberscharführer. The Second World War started on the 1st of September 1939 with the invasion of Poland. Warsaw suffered heavy air attacks and artillery bombardment, and German troops entered the capital on the 29th of September, shortly after its surrender. The campaign in Poland ended on the 6th of October the same year, with Germany and the Soviet Union dividing and annexing the whole of the country. On the 23rd of November 1939, German civilian occupation authorities required Warsaw's Jews to identify themselves by wearing white armbands with a blue Star of David. The German authorities closed Jewish schools, confiscated Jewish-owned property, and conscripted Jewish men into forced labor and dissolved pre-war Jewish organizations. In November 1940, Klaustermeyer became an employee of the Gestapo in the Warsaw district, which was one of the first 4 Nazi districts of the General Governorate region of German-occupied Poland during World War II, along with Lublin, Radom, and Kraków districts. In the autumn of 1941, Klaustermeyer was assigned the task of monitoring Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto. German authorities had decreed the establishment of a ghetto in Warsaw on the 12th of October 1940. The decree required all Jewish residents of Warsaw to move into a designated area, which German authorities sealed off from the rest of the city in November 1940. In December of the same year, the Germans called for the death penalty for Jews who had left the ghetto without permission. The same penalty awaited any person who knowingly gave shelter to such Jews. The ghetto, which became the largest of all Jewish ghettos in Nazi-occupied Europe during World War II, was enclosed by a wall that was over 10 feet high, topped with barbed wire, and closely guarded to prevent movement between the ghetto and the rest of Warsaw. The population of the ghetto, increased by Jews compelled to move in from nearby towns, was estimated to be over 400,000 Jews. German authorities forced ghetto residents to live in an area of 1.3 square miles, with an average of 7.2 persons per room. Proper hygiene was almost impossible, as many homes did not have running water. Extreme overcrowding, minimal rations, and unsanitary conditions led to disease, starvation, and the death of thousands of Jews each month. An average daily food ration in 1941 for Jews in Warsaw was limited to 184 calories, compared to 2,613 calories for the Germans. An official German order stated that the basic provisioning of the Jewish residential district must be less than the minimum necessary for preserving life, regardless of the consequences. The hunger in the ghetto was so great that dying people were laying in the streets and small children were seen begging. Economic activity in the ghetto was minimal and generally illegal. The most prevalent of such activity was the widespread smuggling of food and medicines into the ghetto, which supplemented the miserable official allotments and kept the death rate from increasing still further. Those individuals who were active in these illegal acts or who had other savings were generally able to survive longer in the ghetto. Between 1940 and mid-1942, 83,000 Jews died of starvation and disease. When a resident from the Warsaw Ghetto passed away, their families would place the body in the street, and it would be picked up in the morning by a funeral cart that made its rounds every day. Heinrich Klaustermeyer, known in the ghetto for his brutal and ruthless behavior towards Jews, was corrupted, and with the proceeds from his side businesses, he was able to afford a lavish lifestyle and stay at the luxurious hotel. With his SS comrade, Josef Blöscher, Klaustermeyer would ride his bicycle into the ghetto and beat and shoot men, women, and children at random, just to terrorize them. For their brutality, the Jews in the ghetto gave Klaustermeyer and Blöscher the nickname Frankenstein. In the autumn of 1941, Klaustermeyer shot a Jewish police officer in the Jewish cemetery in Warsaw. In the summer of 1942, he captured 6 women on Kupiecka Street, made them stand against a wall, and then shot every second of them. On one occasion, he fired into a Jewish marching column on one of the ghetto's streets and killed 1 Jew in the process. After the war, one witness testified how on one autumn day in 1942, he had observed Klaustermeyer shooting 3 randomly chosen Jews, 2 women and 1 man. None of them were older than 30. Holocaust survivor Irena Rojek reported after the war how in the spring of 1942, she had seen how Klaustermeyer had snatched a child from a woman and threw it onto the street. He then walked towards the child, pulled out his short gun, aimed, and shot the child. Then he turned to the child's mother and shot her as well. Another witness later testified how while just staying a few meters away, he had to watch Klaustermeyer shoot his mother, wife, and 3-month-old child. In the ghetto, his mode of transportation was a 3-wheeled rickshaw that resembled a 2-seated deck chair. Wherever he appeared, the Jews in the ghetto fled because they were afraid of being shot. Between the fall of 1941 and February 1943, he killed 20 Jews on his route between the commandant's office and the ghetto, where he controlled the Jewish ghetto workers in German companies. After the war, Klaustermeyer claimed that he and his colleagues liked going to the controls in the Warsaw Ghetto because they usually got breakfast at the factories. However, One Holocaust survivor later testified that Klaustermeyer, together with his Nazi comrades, were unable to have breakfast before they had shot a few Jews. Heinrich Klaustermeyer did not spare even his rickshaw driver. In August 1942, he drew his pistol and shot him in the head without any reason. From the 22nd of July until the 12th of September 1942, German SS and police units, assisted by auxiliaries, carried out mass deportations from the Warsaw Ghetto to the Treblinka killing center, 52 miles away from Warsaw. Rather than fill the daily quotas for deportation, Jewish council leader Adam Chernakov committed suicide on the 23rd of July by swallowing a cyanide pill. The deportees were allowed to carry with them 15 kilograms of baggage, food for 3 days, money, gold, and other valuables. During this period, the Germans deported about 265,000 Jews from Warsaw to Treblinka, and they killed approximately 35,000 Jews inside the ghetto during the operation. Heinrich Klaustermeyer served as a local expert, hunting down many Jews who were hiding from deportations during this time. In January 1943, SS and police units returned to Warsaw, this time with the intent of deporting thousands of the remaining approximately 70,000 to 80,000 Jews in the ghetto to forced labor camps for Jews in Lublin district. This time, however, many of the Jews, understandably believing that the SS and police would deport them to the Treblinka killing center, resisted deportation, some of them using small arms which had been smuggled into the ghetto. After seizing approximately 5,000 Jews, the SS and police units halted the operation and withdrew. On the 19th of April, 1943, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising began after German troops and police entered the ghetto to deport its surviving inhabitants to forced labor camps in Lublin district. The ghetto inhabitants offered organized resistance in the first days of the operation, inflicting casualties on the well-armed and well-equipped SS and police units. They continued to resist deportation as individuals or in small groups for 4 weeks. It was the largest uprising by Jews during World War II, and the first significant urban revolt against the German occupation in Europe. In the end, however, the Germans razed the ghetto to the ground. They burned and demolished this part of Warsaw, block by block, in order to smoke out their prey. The Germans ended the operation on the 16th of May, when Jürgen Stroop, who led the suppression of the uprising, announced in his daily report to Berlin that the former Jewish quarter in Warsaw is no more. The SS and police deported approximately 42,000 Warsaw Ghetto survivors who had been captured during the uprising to the forced labor camps at Poniatowa, Trawniki, and to the Majdanek concentration camp. At least 7,000 Jews died fighting or in hiding in the ghetto as they were burnt alive, or died from smoke inhalation. The SS and police sent another 7,000 to the Treblinka killing center. On the following year, Heinrich Klaustermeyer participated in the suppression of the Warsaw Uprising, which began on the 1st of August 1944. The Polish Home Army, a non-communist underground resistance army with units stationed throughout German-occupied Poland, rose against the German occupation authorities in an effort to liberate Warsaw. The impetus for the uprising was the appearance of the Soviet forces along the east bank of the Vistula River. The Soviets, however, failed to intervene, and the Germans eventually crushed the revolt and razed the center of the city to the ground in October 1944. Though they treated captured Home Army combatants as prisoners of war, the Germans sent thousands of captured Polish civilians to concentration camps in the Reich. 166,000 people lost their lives in the uprising, including perhaps as many as 17,000 Polish Jews, who had either fought with the Polish Home Army or had been discovered in hiding. After the suppression of the Warsaw Uprising, Klaustermeyer left the city. After Germany's surrender, Klaustermeyer was detained by the British occupation forces and sent to an internment camp. He was released in late 1947, only to be rearrested for being a member of the Gestapo. During his denazification trial, Klaustermeyer was incriminated in his boycotting of Jews in the 1930s, but not for the murders he had committed in Warsaw. He was quickly released, settled down in West Germany, got married, and took a job as a driver. However, he did not escape justice. In February 1961, Klaustermeyer was exposed after his name was mentioned during the investigation of former Nazi official Ludwig Hahn, who, as Klaustermeyer, was directly involved in the destruction and liquidation of the Warsaw Ghetto and the brutal suppression of both the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising and the Warsaw Uprising. Klaustermeyer was arrested and admitted to having been a member of the Gestapo in Warsaw from 1941 to 1944. During the investigation, Klaustermeyer implicated his Nazi comrade, Josef Blöscher, who was now living in East Germany, in the atrocities he had committed. At the trial, Klaustermeyer claimed that although he had often had a reason to intervene against the Jews in the ghetto, he had instead turned a blind eye to them. However, more than 80 witnesses who came to testify against him had very different recollections of his conduct. While Blöscher was executed for his crimes in 1969, Heinrich Klaustermeyer, charged with murdering 20 Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto, escaped the death sentence. On the 4th of February 1965, Heinrich Klaustermeyer was found guilty of murdering 9 Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto. He was sentenced to 9 life terms, 1 for each murder. In addition, he was sentenced to hard labor and ordered to permanently forfeit his civil rights. The judge noted that the proven victims were killed entirely of his own volition and his sheer lust for murder. He said that Klaustermeyer, who maintained his innocence, had hated Jews his entire life and showed no signs of remorse. Dying from advanced cancer, he was released from prison on the 8th of April, 1976. Heinrich Klaustermeyer was 62 years old when he died 13 days later on the 21st of April. There were no tears shed for Heinrich Klaustermeyer. Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.